All right, good afternoon, folks. This is Fairstein with Trade with Tex, and today we're actually going to kick off the new year with a little bit different type of video here, where we're going to talk about bigger charts, right? Basically, kind of longer term charts, and we're also going to talk about different groups that we think will outperform and underperform during 2021. Okay. Now, there are two different kinds of time frames we're going to look at. We're going to look at slightly short term and then what is technically categorized as long term, but we're going to focus on the bigger picture. Okay. And real quick before we get started, I hope you guys did have a good holiday season. I know things are typically slow for traders during that time, but I thought it was a great couple of weeks. Low floaters, markets ended up moving higher, SPACs, just a bunch of different groups, including cryptos, giving us some opportunity. So regardless of how much you banked or whether or not you banked, let's start off the new year on the right foot. Okay. And I did want to also mention that if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe, click the notification button as well. A lot of this year is going to be focused on building ourselves as traders, right? Even if you think you're doing really well, trying to be the best trader possible, right? Maximizing those profits, maximizing consistency. So that goes with educational videos. We have plenty on the channel, and reflecting on your trades. Okay. That's going to be the main goal for the next year. Now, let's look at some of these charts because that's what you guys care about. Let's start it off with monthly charts. And just to be clear, the reason why I'm talking about the bigger picture is because every single year, and even at the end of every single month, I look at larger time frames, because a lot of what we get on these smaller time frames, right, if we even look at the hourly chart, is noise, right? There are a couple of significant days that we can bank on a stock, right? But there are days, for example, on Tesla where we were just chopping around and there was no point in watching them. Last week was a perfect example. Tesla, Monday, Tuesday, nothing, right? Didn't do anything. Wednesday, Thursday, very opportunistic. Okay, so that's kind of the downside of these lower time frames. But if we go to a larger one, like the daily chart, the 1 year, 1 day, we can get a much better idea of what's going to happen somewhat short term, right? Kind of short to intermediate term. Now we're going to zoom this out even further. A lot of people like to go out to the weekly. At the end of every month and every year, I go out to the monthly. Okay, and just to be clear, the way that you do this in your trading platform is under your time frame setup. In Thinkorswim specifically, you customize the list, and then you can kind of tinker with it, right? Edit and set the time interval and the aggregation period. So in this case, each candle that we're looking at represents 1 month. Okay, and again, the reason why that's so significant is because when you get a setup, and this is actually the biggest takeaway of the video, when you get a setup on a stock, right, and it's saying, hey, we're breaking out, I'm going to keep moving up. If that's the case, the next 1 to 2 candles on that chart should deliver the gains that you're looking for, right? Your target should be hit in 1 to 2 candles. So if we're looking at the daily chart, right, it makes sense because we're looking at the next 1 to 2 days to make money. That's why we use this in our YouTube videos every weekend. If we look at the monthly chart, we're looking at the next 1 to 2 months to make money on, right? So first and foremost, make sure you have that monthly chart set up, right, in your time frames. Pull that up and I'll show you what I got after running a ton of scans. Basically, I have a list of tickers that I frequently trade, okay? These tickers are mainly for options, some of them to kind of identify different groups with. You can already tell right off the bat, just looking at this list, that there is a little bit of everything, right? We have tech, we have a China stock, we have fake meat, right? We have pot stocks, EV, volatility, everything, right? So what I did is I ran a bunch of scans and I looked at the monthly charts for every single one of those frequently traded tickers that I have. I think it's about 30, 35, okay? Now, what this got me was this, strong monthly charts, and I left the list here so that you guys could just save it for yourself, okay? But strong monthly charts are these tickers: Apple, Amazon, Goldman Sachs, MGM, PayPal, Roku, the S&P 500, Tesla, Twitter, and Visa. That's a lot, right? So in order to actually turn this into something that I could have as a trade idea, I narrowed it down to the strongest and most significant monthly charts. And those are the ones that are bolded, okay? So Amazon, Tesla, and Visa really stuck out to me. And then for week monthly charts, because I'm not just looking at one side, right? I got to be able to make a lot of money if the markets drop too. So the week monthly charts, Beyond Meat and Zoom really stuck out. They were horrific. Okay. NKLA was another one, but these were the two that really stuck out. Okay. And then down here, we'll go over this later, but these are different groups that I think will be fun to trade over the next year. Okay. Now, just to kick it off, let's look at strong monthly charts. So these are tickers that you should keep on your radar moving forward, not only for options trades, but as potential investments over the next year, right? Now, let me be honest with you. I don't really care about the underlying company very much here. In this specific review, we're focused on price. So when I'm looking at the Tesla monthly, obviously it's overextended, obviously it's overvalued, but we're just following price. That's it. That's how you know that when I make these videos, I don't have any bias, right? I'm not telling you to buy a stock because I'm drinking Kool-Aid and there's no data behind it. What I'm using is data. Okay, so based off that alone, Tesla's the first one on this list for strong monthly charts. This is the daily to give you an idea of what happened last week, right? It broke through a high and kept running up. The monthly, pretty obvious, right? It is extending its run up and breaking out of what was already a massive run up. Okay, so the monthly's telling us is that we're breaking out over 502 and we have blue skies. Now, let's look at it short term because I want to give you guys an idea of what I'm looking for day trades. Tesla, the big resistance that we're breaking above is 695. Okay. And then the resistance from the Friday candle, so the last trading day of 2020, is this 718.72. Okay. So in order to keep moving up, obviously that's what needs to break. And short term, ideally, I would like to see it hold 695, but it does have a lot of support at 681 and 676. Okay, so I'm outlining this as something short term as well because I don't really think Amazon's going to be that fun short term. I don't really think Visa's going to be that fun, but I know Tesla will give some trade opportunities next week. Okay, so big picture, it's breaking out over 500, right? Short term, breaking out over 695. These are the two support levels below. And that's the first resistance going into next week. Okay, those are the key levels to watch. Trade it however the hell you want. I'm just giving you the key levels to work with. Okay, and I'm telling you that it is clearly bullish. Okay. Now, second ticker on that list, I'm just going to flash these charts up. Amazon. This is a really hectic looking one. I apologize in advance, but I traded a lot, so I keep my key levels up. Basically, Amazon, even though this monthly candle is not that bullish, it's a strong monthly candle because what we have here is a flag. And we can even inverse it, right? We can flip it to show you what this looks like unbiased, right? This is a trick that I use all the time. I've definitely done it in my other videos, but you just put a hyphen, right, a dash in front of the ticker, and it'll show you the inverse so that you don't go into it with any type of bias. So to me on Amazon, what this looks like is a flag, right? I don't think that's some kind of genius, unpopular opinion. I think everybody sees that. So by that line of logic, when we're flagging here, we're not just looking for a break of that last key level. We want to see constructive price action for these two recent candles. So to avoid any confusion, let's flip it back. All right. What this means for me on Amazon is that I want it to get above this little zone of the December high and the November high because then there's only one resistance level left and it will be a magnet up to that. So we're not looking to nail a massive, massive breakout. If that happens, great, right? We'll trade it. But what we're looking for is this, that right there. And we could even be more modest and take the lower target here and say that, hey, if Amazon breaks 3368.8, then it has room to 3488.41. We'll take the lower level here and the smaller resistance. Okay, so it's got to break this high. These are the monthly candles, right? And it's signaling a move up there. Doesn't look like much. It doesn't, right? But look at the actual numbers here. This is the beauty of the larger time frames. What Amazon's telling us is that there is 112 120? Yeah, 120 points of upside here if it can break, which is substantial. Okay, so Amazon, I'll be looking for that within the next couple of weeks. Realistically, again, these are larger time frames, so they take more time. Best way that you can stay on top of this move is just by setting price alerts. So I'll zoom it in, but the price alert here is above this key level. I'm telling you right now, even though it's got a long way to go, break above that will result in a very aggressive move for tech stocks. Okay. So Tesla, we know what to look for short term. Amazon, we looked at the big picture. Visa is really simple. Basically, the stock is breaking out to blue skies and it's indicating a move to 240. Okay. I hold this stock long term, so I'm just telling you my next long term target. Just being transparent with you guys. Okay. But Visa extending that range last week of 2020. And this will be a good segue later into the groups that I'm looking at, but Visa is one of my favorite payment services companies. And that's what I think will outperform pretty well in 2021. I think a lot of these payment companies are going to keep running up, right? Visa, MasterCard, PayPal, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So those are the three strong monthly charts I wanted to go over, right? We're not just bouncing around based off of throwing darts here. We're actually looking at individual ones. For week monthly charts, I don't really want to spend too much time on these because, I feel like if you trade them, you've already seen this. But basically, let's go back to the monthly chart. Beyond Meat, one of the few monthly charts that looks like garbage still. It did not have a good monthly candle in November, and then December it prints this, which, to be frank, does not look very good. Main reason is Beyond closed lower on pretty rough volume. You can't see it too well here. And then it's actually just barely sitting above the support zone. And the reason why this is such an ugly chart is because if it cracks the 121s, it's got nothing. Okay, it's got nothing. So if you are watching this on the short side, that's the key breakdown point. Okay, it's got no support under that, right? Barely anything. Now, last one is Zoom, which I kind of feel a little bit bad about not putting out a video last Sunday. I mean, it was the holiday season. I couldn't. I was with family, but this is one of the tickers that I wanted to go over. Reason I feel bad is because it did move down a lot this week. So I don't think you should chase it down. But big picture, it's one of the stocks that is still breaking down from the highs. Okay. So Zoom, just to zoom it out a little bit, no pun intended, is not only losing this support, but it's also losing that support at 366. So big picture, it's lost the 360 support and the 330 support. It's not looking good. Okay. Now let's talk about groups, and we'll make this part relatively quick because I want to sum it up. I think that one of the biggest downfalls of this year, one of the biggest downsides of this year was that everything went up a lot. I don't even care about what happened in March and April. The bounce back was very aggressive because there really wasn't any reason to sell, right? If we just look at the SPY monthly chart, stocks bounce back and then some. Now we have euphoric buying pressure in SPACs, cryptos, right? Bitcoin's already up 13% over the weekend, still running up. Blockchain stocks because of cryptos. EV had an insane run up. List goes on and on, right? Now, the reason I'm saying this is not to get you guys hyped up for 2021. I think the way that we adapt to this, the way that I'm looking to adapt to it, is to create opportunity for ourselves without taking big losses, right? And the bottom line is you can trade what's hot. Just make sure you are not holding through the big pullbacks. Okay, if something pulls back on high volume, like Tesla, for example, this stock still scares the hell out of me. If that pulls back on high volume, you have to cut your losses fast. Okay, that's going to be my goal for the upcoming year. Trade what's hot, cut those losses fast, and we should be able to pile up a good chunk of cash. Okay, so that being said, looking at these groups a little bit more conservatively, right? I'll be looking at EV and blockchain for what's hot because there are a couple electric vehicle stocks that are actually delivering cars, that are actually putting a dent in the market share, right? NIO is one of them that, again, I think just like Tesla is wildly overvalued, but its deliveries are increasing. It's heating up and it's still appealing. Okay, so EV, that's the main ticker I'm going to engage them with. That's the one I'll be looking to trade, not buy and hold, to trade. Okay, notice how I have these two bolded separately? That's because I'm looking to trade them. These, I think, could be good buy and hold plays. Okay, so for EV, let's talk about NIO briefly, and then we'll talk about Riot and wrap things up. NIO is actually a really simple chart, and I say simple because I've simplified it, but it was a pain in the ass when I first started looking at it today. Basically, NIO did not break through and hold 49.45 resistance. That's right here. Okay, that's the problem with what happened on Friday. Let me draw that a little bit better. Okay, the good news, holy hell, does this thing have a lot of support? A lot of support. The tricky part with this, and what I was saying about trading what's hot, you have to have good risk to reward and you have to keep those losses small. So we can't just jump the gun and say, hey, NIO is a fun stock. Let me trade this, right? We have to be very patient with our entry and exit points. So what that means is that either we are using this as a breakout point, right? We wait for a breakout of 49.45. So having said that, I'm going to set the alert over 49.45, okay? Or we get in off of support that has enough risk to reward. Okay, for me, those two levels are 44.88 and 42.41. Those are the two purple lines. I don't know why I put them in purple, but those are the two purple lines on this chart. Okay, so NIO potential bounce play off of either of these two. I'm taking the higher one here into account because I don't think it's going to go back down to this before we break out. It could, but I don't think it will. Okay, so watch this level very closely. That's the breakout. This is the bounce zone. Okay, again, I don't think the stock is properly valued, but I'll watch it for a trade. Okay, now for blockchain, the issue I have is that Bitcoin's actually running up very, very fast. You could even look at GBTC, right? The Bitcoin Trust, but basically it's making it more difficult to trade these blockchain stocks, right? And I'm not saying you can't make money on them, I'm just saying it's more difficult. And some of them, like BTBT, are just going up way too fast. It's not really that sustainable of a move. Whether or not the stock and these stocks continue higher, I'll still be going to a couple of go-to blockchain plays. My go-to ones are going to be Riot and NXTD. Okay, I think Riot is probably the more fun one to trade and the more realistic one to trade because NXTD doesn't really have a lot going for it. But regardless, Riot, what I wanted to show you guys was that it could not break above 18 last week, specifically 1867. Okay, that's up here. And then it defended this same support level at 1643 twice. And that's the big, big takeaway here. As long as it stays above that, it'll keep this trend going, it'll keep ripping and make its way up to 20. If it loses that, you'll have to wait for a short-term pullback. Okay, more than likely down to the mid-14s. All right. So I kind of want to simplify this before we wrap it up with a couple of more groups. And it'll just be a very brief note on those couple of groups. Amazon, Tesla, Visa, noteworthy monthly charts. Options traders, you should be looking at those on a weekly basis. Okay, you don't have to watch each one of them every day, but weekly basis, keep checking in on them and see if they're setting up. Okay, Tesla's the one that's setting up right now, but that's because it had a huge Friday. Okay, for relatively weak monthly charts, bearish monthly charts, BYND and Zoom are the weakest ones that I could spot. I'd be careful with Alibaba because it is hitting support. That's the only one I was a little bit skeptical about on this list. Okay, and then short term for what's hot to start off the year, EV and blockchain. I know SPACs are hot, I know IPOs are hot, but this is what I'll be going to trade. Right? These will be my go-to tickers. Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, shippers, payment services, and travel stocks. I'll be looking at these three groups to outperform in 2021. Okay, I know if I took a poll right now, it would be cryptos, 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 gold, gold, gold. I don't really care. This is what I'll be looking at. I think that travel stocks have bounced back a good bit, and if they pull back a little bit more, we can start re-entering some of them. Okay, payment services, that's a no-brainer, right? These are solid companies. And then shippers are a little bit higher risk. My favorite one's SB. That's a Bowser Report stock. Okay, but short term, these two and Tesla will be on my list early next week for some day trades. And then we can look at these 6 on a regular basis for swing trading and investments. Okay. The point is not to time the markets. The goal is to just focus on these names and wait for our setups. Okay. We are traders. We are not emotional investors. All right. I'm saying that because I think that's a good positive note to start the year out on. Okay. If you guys have any questions about these tickers, if you were a little bit confused by these long-term charts, don't be, right? You can email me. You can reach us on our site, tradewithtex.com, or you can even sign up for the free week trial where you can get in and see the screen share and audio all day. Okay. That's at tradewithtex.com. So hopefully you guys have a good start to the new year. Let's kick some ass, right? Let's make some money. Okay. Have a great weekend, folks.